I always tell my team, if you don't have that moment in a deal, I hope is your strategy, you're probably really not being truthful to yourself.
Welcome to Hunters and Unicorns Raw Stories Live from Las Vegas. I'm Simon Kutis and I'm joined by my co-host Ollie Kune.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
And it's with great pleasure that we introduce you to Laurie Lipscomb. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the show, Laurie.
By way of an introduction, you're head of sales over at Codeium. And today's session is really talking about the importance of getting higher into accounts, right? So today you're going to talk to us about a really high profile, high stakes deal that you help. So just tell us the lay of the land.
Yeah, the lay of the land. So, for many of us out there that have been in an early stage startup, every deal can make or break your quarter. And for me and my team, it was back a year ago, and we're looking at a pretty large number to try to hit. And there's a lot of pressure because as a startup, your pipeline is probably not as large as a more mature company. And so every deal can really be the difference between you capitalizing and having an amazing quarter or actually, kind of diving to the bottom. So we wanted to make sure that we did our part and we wanted to contribute. We wanted to contribute largely. And I was able to assemble a really incredible A team. Shannon Shields, shout out. Simon Donahue, shout out. Incredible talent in the Bay Area. And Shannon knew early on what our mission was. And our mission in the West was really to, again, like I said, bring it for the company, do our part. And she had reached out to this big whale of a company thinking hey, I know our value prop. I've only been at the company here for about a month, but I understand how we can help companies. So I'm going to go high and I'm going to see where it lands. So she went directly to the CIO, reached out to him, and he was like, thanks, but we'll call you if we're interested. So I think we have an opportunity as sales leaders to help our teams to continue to open doors and make sure that those conversations aren't one and done and that they're on to okay, that one's dead, I'm going to go on to the next thing. They'll call me when they're ready. It was oh no, that's an opportunity, right? That's an opportunity to say all right, there could be potential here. So we started to build out a care and a can organization or organizational structure to kind of figure out okay, so he right now, this isn't a priority for him, but how do we start to influence that? How do we start to become relevant? How do we start to help them with it? Because we knew they were having a modernization effort that was ongoing, and we knew we could be a part of those conversations, not later down the road, but while they were making those decisions. And so that's really going from a really high stakes, opportunity and really needed to deliver that quarter to then going high and then now figuring out okay, where do we go from here? Because doing nothing is not an option.
It's like going big tuna fishing, isn't it? It's kind of high stakes, big rewards. You've got this big tuna on the end of it. Now you've got to reel this thing in, right? Take us to this process. So let's sit back and let's just kind of take one step back. You've got this hypothesis. Where do you go with it from there? When you've obviously started to mention you needed to assemble the right team in order to execute it. But talk us through the process that you go to now that you've got this tuna on the end of the line.
So I think it's really, I mentioned just a second ago, the cares and the cans, building out that org chart to understand the power and influence map of what does our engagement plan need to look like? And how do we personalize and customize the messaging to go and so that it lands at the right levels with the right people so that they feel like we have something to offer. And so really understanding from a individual contributor level, why we're going to make their job easier, how, who those people were that we knew, cared about what roles, right? Who the titles were. And so we started to craft those messages. We then went to midline managers and directors, knowing again who our ideal customer profile is, who those titles are, starting to talk more about that mid-level, what's important to them and what we've seen with other companies, and being able to really personalize and customize it to a place where, hey, we understand your business and this is how we want to help you. And then lastly, looking at knowing that they were part of a private equity company had purchased them, knowing that there were other people involved outside of their company, helping to make decisions from an executive standpoint. So it wasn't only the CEO and the C-suite that were looking at strategically, how do they modernize? How do they make this digital transformation? How do we drive efficiencies and costs out of the business? But that didn't just stop within their own organization. There was this extended family. And so we then also had to realize, like, who else has their ear? And we were early in building the channel. So we didn't have relationships with the cloud partners, but we knew that based on just relationships that we were carrying forward to this company, that they were already in there influencing the strategy with, again, the extended family and a lot of the C-suite to talk about how they were going to be on this digital journey together. So we knew that we actually needed to make them part of our campaign and our engagement plan.
So as you're getting traction, how is the rest of the business now reacting? Because you're now on the radar.
So, whenever something, that's always the trick, right? Is when do you put something into the pipeline and then when do you start to move it to stage 2 and beyond? We were lucky because we did validate and we did finally get traction. And so we knew who the project sponsor was. We knew who was driving the actual project. It was now being brought forward. We knew that cloud partners were shaping kind of the vision of this project. And so then we knew now, all right, we're starting to engage in real conversations. We're starting to be able to qualify the deal. Once that hit that stage 2, you have that like new buyer meeting, you validated, like, we have a pain that uniquely that we can solve for them. That becomes a committed deal, basically, right?
Obviously, complacency ties into, lots of, troubled salespeople when you can get complacent. You've obviously built this hypothesis, everything's starting to come together, but how do you ensure that you carry on driving in the right direction without getting complacent in an opportunity like that?
I think, that's really important, right? Is you need to have kind of your own, you need to understand, like, what are the key milestones to continue to progress from stage to stage. So you need to make sure that you're following kind of that sales process. But in addition to that, I think that you need to actually make sure that you're enlisting and scaling your business in the sense that making sure that not only are you assigning actions and owners each week against the progressing the deal, but that you're also, again, those cloud partners and the VCs and other people that are helping us tell our story, that you're ensuring that they have action plans for that week as well. And you're not only communicating that and making sure everyone knows, like, all right, Monday we're huddling, like, here's what we're going to accomplish this week. But Friday, that was the best part, was always Fridays was the reflection of, like, what were we able to accomplish this week? Where are we? And I think that keeps people, right, that ability to monitor and track how you're progressing a deal and seeing those actions in the owners, like each week being able to tell how much progress they made, continue to help us and keeping it with a quarter end close in mind, right? Working backwards on that close plan and then sharing that with your customer as well. So once you not only are holding your team accountable and your extended team accountable, but when you start putting that out there and creating that close plan with your partner or with your customer, that actually then makes you even more accountable. There's no complacency there, because if you're publishing that and having your team calls with them, there's nowhere to hide.
So the emotional state now, obviously you've come together, you've created this, you've got that point of excitement happening now. What does it feel like to go and close one of those deals with your team? And, how do you then use that experience to, to your advantage in helping motivation or what have you?
Well, yeah, I think it really does, like, help breed, I think, a lot of positivity within an organization. I mean, for me personally, I knew how important it was. I know the mission that my company was on. I knew that I wanted to contribute. So I had a personal win, but beyond that, I saw what it meant to Shannon and Simon. I knew Shannon, she has personal goals of getting married and buying a house someday, and Simon as well. And so knowing that it's beyond just like getting a paycheck. And for our customer too, it was beyond just getting the win. It was being able to go out to dinner with them last night and as I'm at a new company now, and those relationships coming forward and bringing those champions along the journey because of the trust and the positive experience that we all had. Hearing back from them just last night, hearing that project's going really well, and they're, and I think that for a company then to have them come and speak at like a sales kickoff and share like what it meant to them and make it real for the rest of the team, rest of the sales organization and beyond, the engineers even, them help build the product and saying like, you guys did this. You helped this company go from being on the edge and feeling like they didn't have like certain tools to really meet these like great aspirational goals to now being able to help be a strategic partner and help them deliver on their vision and help them be relevant this year and beyond and reach their goals is pretty amazing. And so that I think it helps all that positivity of that entire team, both our team and the customer, uniting on that shared vision and goal and being able to celebrate our success, have them realize the value, and then have the sales organization and the whole company be able to like see that and know like, oh my gosh, now I can go out and evangelize this story to my customers and help carry that forward to my customers as well. It's pretty exciting.
Specifically with this story though, was it plain smooth? Was it smooth?
Oh God, no. I could show you my therapy bill. No, it was not. But I think that's where I think when you have champions and you have access to the EB and you've built a trusting relationship where you've earned the right to be able to be real with each other. We knew that we died a few times. They didn't get funding. They were going to have to go a different direction with an incumbent. Like there was a lot of times in which doing nothing or staying with status quo was going to be the path. And being able to not give up and be creative, and because we both wanted each other to win, because we had built such strong champions that were really advocating for us and knew that there was nobody else that could match the scale and the complexity that they had. And so they knew we needed each other.
On those lows when something's not going quite right, do you have a technique or do you have something to help you kind of stay positive and stay kind of, I don't know, in the deal?
I always tell my team, if you don't have that moment in a deal, you probably have like, your hope is your strategy. You're probably really not being truthful to yourself. So I think that reminding people like deals usually have a few times where they're gonna go south. And it's our job to stay calm, to believe in our ability as a team to, again, if we've done the right things, we have unique differentiation, we understand what value we're creating for a customer, and we have strong champions in the AV, I think that like, we'll figure out a way. So I think just being positive and focusing on the data to help support, like, it's okay, like this is gonna happen, what are we gonna do from here? Versus kind of losing it. But I also think like the group therapy like helps on a Friday afternoon is pretty amazing too.
So do you detach yourself from that? And do you say, look, let's just take a step back? Do I, go and have a walk? Or is there anything that
Oh, I see, yeah. So, I mean, we used to on Friday afternoons, we would have our debrief session, and we literally would all bring like sunglasses or like a funny hat or like, and we would just start it with almost like telling a joke or getting just out of the emotion of the deal and trying, to your point, like how do we humanize ourselves again? Like how do we lean on each other? How do we stay connected? Knowing that like then we could get back to the data and come back at it with a fresh perspective.
Are you trying to be objective in that moment as well? It's absolute kind of like, get to the truth. Do we actually know where we are?
Well, that's where things like MedPick and things like that really helps you, because then you're really focusing on like, where are the gaps? What can we solve? What's out of our control? Where do we go from here? So you don't feel helpless. And when you also have strong champions and other people that are selling on your behalf, they're coming back with other data points and validation to say like, no, I know, they're working on it. Don't worry. We've also heard they're having this other meeting to go get funding. Like, what you're hearing is truthful. Just patience, be calm, right? But I think it is validating, getting other perspectives, getting other data points, making sure that you control what you can control and hoping that people are advocating on your behalf.
There's got to be a danger there, isn't there? I know that you're both emotionally attached to it, both you and your champion, but at the same time, you don't want to show an over-emotion in that situation, right? And so the balance of making sure you can speak openly with them, but at the same time, not to, I suppose, pass your pressures onto them.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's kind of sticking with. That's why you have things like mutual close plans and things like that, where then you can, again, go back to like something more constructive and things you can control with outcomes and data and keeping the emotion piece out of it. But then you can also, again, I think it's getting in front of your customers, having a beer or going to dinner, and then that's when those side conversations like, am I going to be hung out to dry at the end of the quarter? Because like, it's not going to go well. Like, tell me now, put me out of my misery if it's not going to be a good
Because
ending.
that is the thing, isn't it? And we were just talking with Josh about this exact subject, right? Because they don't really care about your quarter. They do, but they don't, right? That's right, emotional attachment to that deal. And they've got their emotional attachment to the deal. I suppose you've got to share that as true champion building, right? To understand what's in it for you.
But I think we knew that they had timelines. They had to be out of data centers. There were things that they had to do for their business. So fortunately, there was a compelling event that we both shared. So you get lucky sometimes. Sometimes to your point though, I mean, you have to be real about maybe you're going to have to miss the quarter, but maybe you've gained so much by going a month or two after the quarter. You might not only gain more revenue because you've had more time, but you also may get a trust, more trust established where you have an opportunity to go ask for more at a later time. So
that is a balancing point, isn't it? When do you make that decision of over pushing to get it in the quarter in comparison to, do you know what, the interest of the client?
And I think when you know people's personal wins, you can kind of tug on some of those things as well. Again, if you have a real champion, you're going to know the things that are important. You're going to know the reasons why that timeline is important to them. And so I always like to try to make it not about me or my quarter. I'm trying to make it about delivering value, working backwards from a rollout plan, working backwards from their timeline, because we can get really caught up in like ends of quarters and things that are important to us.
Yep.
But like, is that really being a long-term good strategic partner for a company?
How important was the entry point into this account to close this deal?
I think that starting high and getting on the CIO's radar was extremely important because we were able to go back without having to be we test our champions in other ways, but getting back to power was not the way that we needed to do it. And having established that early on, and having Shannon she does such a great job of truly understanding why someone would even want or care to talk to us. And so I think that we earn, again, I keep using the word earn, but I do think that we need to earn the right to have those conversations, and we earn the right to go back at the end when we definitely needed.
What's the big learning here, Laurie? If you were to kind of reflect on how you kind of use this example to coach your team, what's the kind of big takeaway for you here?
Big takeaway is always PG. PG is life. We always used to laugh that team about taking off our bunny slippers and getting out and building champions and building EB, building strong executive support. And so I think having those relationships is really important. And I think also getting out of we had a project plan. We knew exactly if we did these things, here's the required capabilities, here's how technically we're gonna win this deal. We would have maybe got a 6-figure deal, maybe 7, knowing though that there's a greater strategic goal for the company that this plan is probably tied to, and getting higher in like your hypothesis and understanding like how is it gonna help them save money, mitigate risk, make money, like really aligning yourself to those corporate, strategic initiatives, I think is another important thing of like helping you get high and elevated and really becoming a strategic partner.
Well, I think this is the point where we reflect on what we've spoken about today, Laurie. It's been fantastic getting you on the show, and it's been a long time coming. So great to have you. And I think the real theme here is a few things, right? Obviously, having a framework which gives you perspective, and then having a common language, and just being able to kind of sit together as a team and talk through that. But it's also the importance of really attaching yourself to that big business objective. I think that's the real big theme and the big takeaway here. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for coming on the show, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Laurie. So to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you've heard, please do subscribe to our various channels, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. All the links will be in the description below, and we look forward to welcoming you back for another session very soon. Thank you.